grieve, and it can help us celebrate. It can help us laugh and cry as well. So we decided to try to put some music together to include in a clinic. Just it beats just a straight out old lecture kind of format. It's a lot more fun, and I get to play music with these good folks here. This is my wife, Leela Cantor, and she's playing our percussion. Hey, babe.
Hey.
And this is my buddy, longtime buddy, Richard Plyler. He's playing bass. Hey, babe. Yep. So you want to say anything, Richard, about, tell us a little about your background and you know, your band director work and what you're doing now?
Yes. Studied at Mars Hill University or college and got a music degree, taught band for 31 years full time, all the instruments in the system. My wife with her orchestra, high school orchestra, and then retired, pension coming in, took a 6-month sabbatical, started teaching again in this area. So it's a lot of fun. I've taught private lessons and substitute for band directors and orchestra directors, and he got me back into playing bass. I'm a trumpet player, but several years ago, and he sat me down. I've forgotten EAVG on the bass, so we got together and we had played together decades ago. It's kind of like a reunion, and Leela joined us, and boy, this is really getting great because we used to bass fish and rock climb, and now we're playing music together. You know? So anyway,
you were going to mention something about the radio show part.
Yes, we also have a radio show on WART FM out of Marshall. And you can also stream that live at wartfm.org. And it's Thursdays at 11, called the Essential Mental Medicine Show. And we have ourselves and other guests, and we discuss arts and literature and science and how they apply to mental health.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's who we are, and we're glad everybody came. So I'll just go ahead and get started with the first part of this. We're going to talk about the biology of the nervous system. Stress and trauma come from this tissue in our bodies that we call the nervous system. And it can create pleasant sensations inside as well as unpleasant or just quiet and calm. So it basically, the two functions that I deal with in helping people with stress and trauma, two functions of the nervous system, one we call the accelerators and one we call the brakes. And the accelerator function comes from the branch called the sympathetic nervous system, but its job is to create unpleasant sensations inside the body. And it creates them around our heart, constricts our throats, makes our hearts beat faster, get a pit in our stomach, muscles tense. And the nervous system is pretty interesting. It can manage that kind of activation for a period of time, can be decades even, but it keeps accumulating. That's the thing about stress. It makes our nervous system much more sensitive. And in fact, when it's activated, it releases stress hormones, and having a lot of stress hormones in our bodies and our body chemistry is toxic to neurons, nerve cells. And that's part of the sensitivity created by a lot of stress. And I think of it a lot of times as a sunburn. You know, like you get sunburn and your skin's real sensitive. You don't want anybody patting you on the shoulder. And it doesn't take much to get a big reaction. And it's the same with our nervous system. The stress can build up and it becomes more sensitive, and it takes less to get a big reaction. And the unpleasant sensations we associate with stress, worry, trying to think of the other words, traumatic reactions as well, but the traumatic reaction from the nervous system is when it gets what we call stuck on high. It gets activated by some event, and it just does not go away very soon. It can take weeks, and it can take, in fact, it can go on, depends on how bad it was or what it was. It can take years, but it does take effort on our part to fight back, and we can fight back. And we're going to talk about that today. So the other function of the nervous system, besides all this unpleasant anger and fear and panic and rage stuff, over here on the other side is the parasympathetic. Its job is to calm all the unpleasant stuff, get us back to calm. And when I say, like with we've had a really bad event, or just a long period of time of high stress, when it does activate, this is the sympathetic side with the trauma, when it does activate, it tends to stay there. And here are the brakes. They're just this tissue, part of the nervous system, just sitting there, able to calm a lot of that down, but it can't because it's stuck on high. So the accelerator side of the nervous system is just like a muscle spasm. It's just not giving up. It stays activated. And it may go down a little bit, but we're not back to ourselves again. And with the kind of research and the kind of interventions that I'm going to talk about today through this model called the trauma resiliency model, which is the model that I use with clients and for myself as well, activates the brakes because they're not getting activated. They're there, they can do their job, and they're not getting activated, and they need to be, because when you do activate them in the right way, you get a new neural pathway built from the brain into the body. The old neural pathway is a trauma pathway. It's a stress pathway. When there's a trigger, you have a stress or a trauma outcome in the body. And when the nervous system can regulate itself again and get the accelerator function calm again, you have a calm outcome in the body. It can be the same trigger. If I were really, really afraid of snakes and I had a traumatic event, and then I worked on this therapy to get my nervous system to stay calm, when I'm in the presence of that kind of trigger, it will stay calm. It has a new neural pathway, a very biological new set of roads to travel, so that it doesn't travel the old road, and which has the trauma outcome and the stress outcome. So that's my nutshell, basically, for talking about the mechanics of the biology of the nervous system. And one of the ways I think one of the primary ways to activate the brakes, to get that part, this is how we fight back, is to activate the brakes. All this unpleasant anger and stress stuff grabs our attention and holds it on that. We worry about it and we think about it, and that's an automatic wiring that's we're born with, to automatically focus on what we're worried about. We want to come up with a solution, but we don't think as clearly as we do when we're calm. And that focusing on the unpleasant keeps the accelerator activated. So that's part of it, and we'll talk about attention in a minute. So what we want to do is learn about the nervous system's way of communicating in the body. And it's just sensation. It creates sensation. It's tissue in our body that has the unique ability to do that. Heart muscles just pump. That's what they do. And just individual cells will do that. Nerve cells can create sensation in our body. it creates the unpleasant ones, it creates calm, which is such a welcome presence and relief from stress, and we can get that. That comes from the nervous system. That comes from the parasympathetic side, or our brakes getting activated and doing its job, calming everything down, and can get us back to where we can think again, and we can feel calm and begin to sleep again a lot better, and sometimes appetite comes back and that sort of thing. So it's really worth the effort. And so I want to talk about noticing a little bit, noticing the sensations inside. Because that's the first thing you got to do to fight back. You got to notice the sensations. So let me ask a volunteer. He can be any guy. Any of you guys up here playing music or not? Anybody want to volunteer and say, have you ever noticed what the pattern is for when you get stressed? Like if I see something that triggers my nervous system, boom, right here in the gut, I get a good sharp hit, a good sharp pain in the gut, and my heart immediately jumps up. It's going boom, boom, boom. And if it's worse, I'll start getting constriction in my throat. I can feel that. Sometimes it burns. I feel like I'm getting a sore throat, and it's just the stress reaction going on. So that's what it's like for me. I've talked to other people who say, "Oh, it starts right in my throat first thing." You know, I feel I can't breathe good. Very first thing. So everybody's is a little bit different, and that's okay. To be expected. So I don't know. Anybody else noticed what your nervous system's pattern is for?
My heart starts racing,
Yeah.
definitely.
First thing?
Mhm. First thing, I'll feel my heart start racing.
Yep.
My breathing gets shallow,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like real shallow, faster breath.
And do you notice any sensations in your throat?
Yeah, it gets
Yeah,
tight.
I guess tight. Does it feel a little tight in there? You know, do you notice the sensations around your heart ever?
I don't think I've noticed that, but the breathing is
Yeah, the breathing is the first thing that gets gripped up for your system.
Heather says that her heart starts racing and she actually holds her breath.
Yes. Does it work for her?
No.
No. Yeah, a good breathing exercise, you know, is to take in breath slower and deeper and then let it out slower. In fact, you can take it in a little quicker, but let it out nice and slow. And to actually try to just take longer breaths each time. So, you know, you don't have to start with a great long one or you feel smothered, you know, so you just start slowing that breathing down. You don't want to stop it necessarily, but because the whole intake of air into our lungs is right there and has a direct effect on a nervous system, and slowing our breathing down does help, especially in the moment. One of the things that we're going to talk about today gives you it gives you a permanent change, a long-lasting change, and one you can count on. And that's when you do build new neural pathways and you do this work. We'll talk about two skills that I use and teach people. The one's called grounding and one's called tracking. And there's different techniques for grounding, but the one that's for this type of therapy is really effective, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. Any questions for anybody at this point? Okay, so let's do but before we get started, what are you guys noticing right now in terms of sensation? I don't know. Are you calm? You notice calm, or is there a little anxiety or I don't know, distraction or anything like that? How's everybody doing right now?
I feel pretty calm right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, me
I
too.
do.
good.
My pulse is, and I had a stressful event recently, about a month ago, and it stayed up at, and being a musician, that's why
So your pulse is up right now?
No.
No, it's
It's
not.
calm.
This is, I love doing
You're
this,
just-
so
you're
I'm
in
so
the zone.
relaxed. But I had a stressful event,
I checked.
and I checked it, I always check to see where my pulse is, like, man, my heart was going ding, 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 ding for hours, ding, 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 ding. And I know my body was flooding and giving me oxygen to operate and stuff. I was kind of, did you mention to, are you still asleep?
I gotta keep back up.
I figured that. Well,
That's why you're here, Richard.
uh,
That's why you're here.
well, no, he's the one that taught me that.
Yeah,
You have to tune advantage of the different tunes. It just, it's not
different
like
tunings
this.
from
I
sometimes.
don't
Yeah,
like to
yeah,
do
yeah.
anything to keep it in this one tune. Steve Martin, he used to just make jokes while he was doing it. Come on, Stuart, give us a joke.
Yeah. The funniest thing that comes to mind is, I like self-deprecation jokes, and we laugh at ourselves.
I do.
And one guy that does that well is a guy named Tom Papa. He used to be.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And one of his stories was, he said, you ever walk into a restaurant, go up to the bar and pick a stool and you lean into the back of the stool and you realize there's no back.
Oh,
And then he goes, I am almost ready. I had to stop till two.
Oh, good. Need a little more of that these days.
Yeah, it's. Okay, I think we can do this. All right, so this one's kind of quiet. And what I want you to do, this is the whole point of music. Music has an impact on our nervous system. Just notice, just pay attention. This is an exercise in noticing. Notice if nothing changes. Notice if there is any change. Is it positive? Is it unpleasant? Pleasant, unpleasant, or just stay the same? The whole point, pay attention, because the sensation that this tissue in our body creates it's its way of communicating. And so the only way you communicate is listen. That's part of it. So listen by noticing and see if anything changes whatsoever. Just, and I'll ask about it when we get to the other side. Richard, lead us off with it. Oh, I have to turn my amp on, I'm sorry.
Foolish sitting there with those things on your face.
All right, try again, bud. Yeah. All right. Thank you. So, anybody notice anything?
It's very calming.
Yeah, so,
Lighter feeling.
oh yeah, you noticed that. Where did you notice that sensation?
I think the whole body.
Yeah, just general, all over. That's interesting. So it's just a quiet song, you know, and makes you think of sunshine and those little drinks with an umbrella in them, you know.
Yeah, where are they?
Yeah, I know, right?
So, well, that's right. What about anybody else?
I felt almost instantly, I just felt my body, like, I felt my shoulders drop, and I carry a lot of stress in my shoulders. So I felt my shoulders drop. I kind of just eased into the chair. I just felt like weight was lifted. And I got a little teary because I was like, oh, I miss live music so much right now.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So it was really special.
Well, good, yeah. Well, that's good. That's the idea about noticing. You notice that there's an unpleasant or a pleasant sensation there, and you notice where is it? And it's like if you go in to have a pain fixed by the doctor, he's going to ask you, well, where does it hurt? And you have to say where, and you want to do that because you want to notice when it's gone as well. And that's part of the therapy of this model is noticing when it's gone. So good. Let me check my notes. Yeah, I want to talk about next is the role that attention plays in this therapy process. Now, so our attention comes from right up front here in the center and right on the skin of the brain. And this is where our consciousness is. This is where, you know we're awake and we're moving around and our thinking and planning and all this kind of conscious activity happens here. Underneath the skin, pretty much everything's just unconscious work. So this little patch up here, of course, it has partners all through all this tissue up here. But the unconscious part of the brain is primarily where the signals come from that turns on the unpleasant fight or flight system stuff, the unpleasant fear and panic and the unpleasant anger and rage and that sort of thing. That comes, well, actually, if I do my fist like this as the brain, and this is the spinal cord, basically right where the spinal cord and the brain meet back here at the base of the brain, is where those signals come from. And this part of our brain uses language. We plan our statements and everything we're going to say. So it's real involved in language. Back here at the bottom, that part of our brain is not. It does have a language, and its language is sensation. If I close my hand, I know it's closed. I don't have to look at it because the sensation, the signal, brain says close, hand says okay by sending the signal back. It says, okay, we're there. We've done what you asked. So this therapy uses this notion of language of sensation and connecting this part of the brain that does do spoken word language. And the way we connect those two parts of the brain, this part and this part, is through noticing. Just like you did a minute ago. You're noticing the work, basically, that the nerve tissue in your body is doing. You notice that, oh, there's the stress again, there's the anxiety. So you know right off the bat, the medicine for that is to activate the brakes. And it's really, this is the hardest part. It's simple, but it's hard to do. It's like saying it's easier said than done. So we want to activate the brakes. And we'll talk about doing that in just a minute. Music's one way, but we're going to do a little more in-depth way. There's the old pathway that goes from the brain to the body that has the stress outcome, the trauma outcome in the body. And we want to create a new neural pathway that has a calm outcome in the body in the face of the trigger that has just triggered us, and got our nervous system amped up. We want to use that energy while it's there and start doing the calming work, because we're going to put those two neural pathways side by side and they're going to bond. And it takes about, it's just a few seconds. I forget now, there's like 20 seconds is what it takes for this branching, this bonding to start to form, these neurons to make the connection, for dots to connect biologically in the body, just like when we learn something brand new, we have to repeat it a few times, but those connections, those dots connect, and that's what we're after when we're activating the brakes. We want to activate the brakes while the accelerator's on, and that's fighting back. That's how you fight back. And so anyway, let's do some more practice with that. Let's get our other, well, I gotta put capo on this time. And so we're gonna play a different one this time, different feel. Oh, and I want to mention that first tune we played was by a Cuban composer, and I know the name of the tune is La Comparsa. It's Eduardo Cuomo is the composer. He was kind of contemporary of Scott Joplin, the early 20th century, but he was like one of the few composers that was well known, and his music was well known. So that was that first tune we did. And I'll tell you after we do the tune, because with the name of the tune, because we kind of want it to be a surprise. All right. All right, well, sometimes you just need to get back on board. So that was our Irish medley. It's called Wiggly Jigs, and it's three, I'm trying to remember all three tunes. I don't remember the name of the first one. No, but anyway, the middle one, I don't recall it either. Anyway, it was that. It's
So
just
it's
how it
actually
is.
3 tunes?
It was three tunes.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah, well, you know, a lot of Irish tunes, they
start to
string
sound, yeah.
them together that way, and that was
Like,
strung together. Oh, I think I was Sergeant Pepper's in this. Nothing like that at all. So, anyway, so this one was different. The feel was different. It was kind of, it was kind of a military march kind of an opening, you know, and then it had, oh, the Broad Walk is the middle tune. Wicked Jigs, Broad Walk is the middle tune, and it's kind of happy and easy going. And then the last one that I really goofed up on was is Culpepper's Real, I think. Anyway.
I thought it sounded good.
I
Well,
thought it
You
sounded
played it
good.
different, but it wasn't a goof up, it was really cool.
Yeah.
It was fun, my bass line kind of matched what you were, it was like in a different, it was fun.
Yeah. So anyway, anything, what'd you notice? Anything, everything just stay the same? Did it change in a pleasant way or change in an unpleasant way? What'd you guys get?
Do you mean different from the first ones you played?
Yeah, just from when it started.
I thought of, yeah, more upbeat, happy, energetic.
Yeah. Did you notice that in a sensation anywhere?
My feet.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep my feet still, yeah, I wanted to.
Well, you know, there's a biological connection between movement and rhythm anyway. That's just as old as any ancestor you can pick out. I mean, people have always made rhythm and danced to it.
Heather is saying that music is definitely one of the main tools she uses to help calm her down when
Oh,
she's
yeah.
stressed.
It was for me growing up as a kid and still is, you know, so I understand that. That's a lot. And part of why I like to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So any questions or
I have one. So is there a certain type of music that helps you calm the best? I mean, is classical the best for calming?
necessarily?
Or is it
what
different
you
for different
like,
people?
What you like.
Okay.
Here's another thing that works. Is there a tune that whenever you hear it, it just, it's associated with some experience you've had in the past? Can you think of one that come to mind that's like that?
I can't think of his name. The guy that with the real throaty voice that sings
Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong. Every
Yeah.
time I hear him, I just smile. I mean, it just, I don't know, it's happy.
Yeah, right, and a lot of times people can say, oh, yes, you know, they've got, that particular song has this particular memory, you know, and that sort of, and it can be just a period of time in your life where things were going good or not, you know. But our stories of the really valuable, meaningful experiences in our lives, those are stored in nerve tissue, just like the ugly experiences are stored there for stress. You can recall an ugly experience and it can activate the accelerator branch of the nervous system and you don't feel as well. You can recall a really warm event or experience or time in your life and tell that story to someone, write it down, but tell the story. Does anything come to mind for anybody right now where whenever you tell that story, it's like, oh, that feels good.
Sheila, how did you feel when you told me today about the 97-year-old man who was on his tractor the week before he died?
Oh,
How did
well,
that make you feel? Because it flooded me with the breaks.
so I thought of it as being a funeral is a sad time, but it brings a smile to my face or to my feelings when I think of what kind of man he was and the impact he had on people over the years. So I went to a funeral last weekend. He was 97, but he was one of the most positive people I've ever been around. And it wasn't because he had had a charmed life all his life. It was just because of his outlook.
Awesome.
What do you notice right now? Pay attention and see if there's any change.
Oh, I was smiling behind my mask.
Yeah, right. Do you notice any change in sensation inside or in your heart, stomach? Or is it just about the same?
I don't know. I feel warm.
Yeah.
I think when I get uptight, I start feeling cold. You know, my body feels cold.
See, the music, when I was little, I thought I was the only one that got the goosebumps and all, but when you tell that story, I get the same sensation. So it's just really fulfilling to hear that.
Well, that makes the point. I mean, those experiences are stored in the nervous system. Writing those down, recalling them, telling those stories, anything, and you may keep mementos from, could be a person in your life, an adult that was really supportive and helpful when you were a kid and they gave you something and you know, that represents and reminds you of the stories, those activate the brakes. That's one thing that will do it. Music does it. And I want to introduce you to these two skills we call grounding and tracking. And this is what we would do in a therapy session. So if Lila were a client and she was not my wife and she came in and she said, this is what is stressing me out, and it's just really intense, and you know, we would do what I'm going to show you right now. It's just called a grounding and tracking. So first of all, grounding is when we put our attention, we're going to take control of the attention now, and you notice the sensation of sitting in the chair. Everywhere the chair is touching and holding you up, it's called grounding. We're on the ground. We're safe. It's not going to fall. This is good, solid ground, and it's safe here. And so you take a few moments, and everybody do this if you can, and just pay attention and notice everything you can about the sensation of your body making contact with the chair from the back, middle of your back to behind your knees. So take just a few moments and put all your attention on noticing that sensation. So ordinarily, we'll go a little bit longer, but for today's demonstration, did anybody notice, while you were noticing that sensation, did you notice that any other sensations changed inside in any way?
I felt like my breathing got a little deeper and slower.
And it's okay if there's nothing happening, you know, because nobody's really upset right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and creates a big change. So let me talk to you about, that's grounding. That's grounding. You would start, you get your attention off whatever has upset you for one thing. And now your attention's on this sensation. This is a safe sensation, a pleasant sensation. And when your attention goes onto the sensation, then that will kickstart basically the activation of the brakes. This parasympathetic nervous system is, you know, coming alive, coming up out of the lake, you know, and going to do its work. So we do another thing called tracking. And tracking basically says, okay, we've got the parasympathetic, we've got the brakes. They're awake now. Let's get some work done with them, you know. So you start, like I asked, as you're noticing that sensation of the chair holding you up against your skin, against all that tissue, and you keep your attention on that for a few moments. And then after a little bit, notice, has anything else changed inside? And it can be, you start noticing calmness starting to creep in. Maybe calmness is flooding in, but it's replacing the stress sensations. And we may, as you do that, in other words, tracking would be like, okay, I've noticed that, say, my heart is a lot calmer and my breathing's calmer and my breath is going deeper. Now we're going to do tracking. Track that sensation, where the calm is. Notice where the calm is. Notice the calm and appreciate the calm, but notice everything you can about it. Notice that, you know, oh, this tissue, oh, my throat feels better. I'm noticing that, and I keep noticing it. And my heart is slowing down, I'm noticing that. And I feel just general muscle relaxation and calmness. That's the work of the nervous system. That's tissue in your body that's at work doing the job it's supposed to do. You just had to help activate it. That's the conscious part of the brain's job. And if you help that conscious part of the brain do its job, your nervous system will turn and it'll react to what you're doing. And it'll react to your attention. Well, just like somebody pats me on the back, and says, oh, that barn floor looks good after cleaning them up, you know, that's a pat on the back. I might want to have it look that good tomorrow, you know, and I just kind of think about how the nervous system reacts that way. If you give attention to the work the calming work that it will do for you, it will do more of it. It will intensify and spread. Oh, now I'm noticing as I'm tracking this sensation change in my chest and organs. Oh, my jaw is loosened up. It's, you know, all these muscles here in my neck. And you might notice sensations happening like tingling in the skin. Could be anywhere on your body, but generally a localized area for tingling. Yawns, gut noises, gurgling, burps. Yeah, and sometimes warm sensations, get real warm. And a lot of times cool sensations can be in a specific spot. Those warm or cool sensations can just move around. It's pretty bizarre sometimes. And those sensations, when it starts doing that, are called releases. Your nervous system is able to let go biologically of the stress that it's been holding for decades, for most of us, you know. And so when we do that kind of grounding and tracking, we begin that process while we're upset. You're creating a new neural pathway. It's going to have a calm outcome. Now, you've basically taken this stressful energy and activated the brakes, and everything's calmed down. And you've made this new neural connection now that has a calm outcome in the body, right in the face of this trigger. And do that every time it comes up. You want to ground and track. And it's amazing how quickly it really reduces the nervous system reaction to a trigger. And if nothing else, it will calm the nervous system for a long time for us. I mean, it'll start creeping back up, but it's calming immediately, and that's a big help. And doing this, whenever you notice stress sensations in the body, doing grounding and tracking then is when you get the most benefit from. You get a real biological change in the nervous system. You're building a new neural network to handle this stress trigger that you didn't have before. And that's the really neat thing about these cells in this tissue, is that it has that capacity to do that, And I just think everybody should know that, from youngins all the way to oldins. So, well, let's do this last one. Any questions from anybody? Any questions? All right, so this is another practice in noticing. See what you notice after I get the tune. All right. So notice what's going on now. Just notice any sensations you notice inside, around your organs, muscles. Give us something to compare to when we get done. See if anything changes. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. That's good. You guys remember that? You remember hearing that in the past on the radio? You remember the name of it?
No.
Classical gas.
There you go.
Wow,
Yeah, you
there we
know,
go.
It's
From
sixties.
the sixties.
Yeah, yeah, it was like late 67 or 8 or something like that. Yeah, Mason Williams was the guy who wrote that. Anyway, I always really liked that. It's a fun tune.
You guys gotta remember, okay, so I'm in my mom's kitchen in the 60s, 10 years old, maybe, and I can still see that radio that played that song.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that?
See, yeah, it's funny how, yeah, things that are associated with good are stored, same as the unpleasant stuff. And it's good to know that. That's really important information. Any other questions for us before we close? Anybody?
I like the way you put it, Stuart, I'll just go ahead and tell you that. I like the way you tell how, about that.
Oh,
So this is probably my 16th time listening to
Yeah.
it, I get something new every time.
well, good, yeah, yeah.
Well, and I feel like with the music that you're playing too, you're helping us create these new, I don't know, maybe, I probably don't know what I'm saying right now, but I feel like you're helping us create new neuro paths, and now like we'll be able to tap into this stuff, and if we hear this song or something similar to it,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
bring us back right here
Yeah.
and the feelings that we're feeling.
It'll probably those connections.
Yeah,
Yeah, and use it as a resource.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well,
for your-
I know, yeah, I forgot my point, but anyway, if that's about everything, let me just thank everybody for showing up and.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Certainly for all you guys that came and all the folks that Shauna got to work with on the Zoom. So thank you, Zoom folks.
yeah.
And I want to say, yeah, let me say thank you to Marshall Library and to Shauna Bryce and to Kim Belapato. And you guys have been just so helpful and encouraging, and I appreciate that. And I think
Yeah,
it's
we
helped.
love having you.
This is just good information to share.
It is, it's
It
essential.
really is.
It's
And
essential.
It's mental health, and it didn't hurt a bit.
Yes.
And, you know, and it's good, it's just really, really helpful information, and it's good, and just dots connecting as you get this information. Oh, you know, everybody's experiences has their own dots, and they connect when you get new information in, and just that is really helpful. Learning the skills and practicing the skills gets real specific to, you know, to whatever does trigger the nervous system. And it's our way to fight back, and I think it's important as Band-Aids. All right, so thanks a lot.
All right.
Goodbye.
Thank you all so much.